AA Fleetcare Championship frontrunners Mike Briggs and Grant McCleary were both in the wars in round 8 of the series at AA Kyalami. Both Opel Vectras had to be rebuilt for Zwartkops after heavy accident damage. A maiden Super Touring win for Terry Moss at AA Kyalami in round 8 provided the Rothmans Audi team with a confidence boost. Four-wheel drive was also likely to be an advantage at Zwartkops. Round 8 also provided the Sasol Ford Mondeo team with a confidence booster. Steve Wyndham made an impressive debut with Sarel van der Merwe scoring his first points of the season. The BMW Envirocar team was looking for a return to top form for Sean van der Linde and Dion Joubert. Both were accident victims at AA Kyalami. Also looking for a return to form were Mike White in the Minolta Toyota Camry and Anthony Taylor in the Castrol Camry. Taylor was in trouble with the AA Kyalami officials after some aggressive driving. The BP Nissan pair of Janil de Villiers and Nick de Waal also had the opportunity to regain early season form. De Waal missed the AA Kyalami event after an accident in qualifying. Class B leader Kurzi Swanepoel lost his unbeaten record at AA Kyalami, but there was a new challenge at Zwartkops via airline pilot Leon Marie in the Bankfin Toyota Sprinter. Put on your helmets and fasten your seatbelts because it's time for the action-packed AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship. 7 manufacturers and some of the best drivers in the world clash head-on in a formula which has taken world motor racing by storm. The AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship, Africa's most exciting racing formula. Former champion Mike Briggs went to Zwartkops with a healthy lead over Opel Racing teammate Grant McCleary. BMW Envirocar pair Dion Joubert and reigning champion Sean van der Linde were closing in on McCleary, with Terry Moss moving into the top 5. The total Zwartkops Raceway in Pretoria West painted a dismal picture as teams prepared for rounds 9 and 10 of the AA Fleetcare Championship. Heavy rain lashed the Gauteng area throughout the Friday before the BMW Motorsport race day, and there was plenty of debate among teams over whether or not the official qualifying session should take place. After a great deal of discussion, race officials and SA Touring Car Association representatives finally decided the session would go ahead.
Doesn't matter what the weather is, we'll all be out there, even though the road's wet, but it doesn't really bother me that much. I've had lots of years of experience in rallying, and I like slippery surfaces, so I think it could stand me in good stead. And it certainly will level the playing field for all the front-wheel drive cars.
A wet racetrack places extra demands on racing drivers. Additional powers of concentration are needed, with poor visibility and misted-up windscreens as big a problem as the slippery circuit. Some are better in wet than others, with 11 times SA Rally champion Sarel van der Merwe, an acknowledged wet weather master.
Well, you know, wet track is really just a substitute for horsepower, and these cars haven't got a hell of a lot of it, so on a wet track it probably suits us a bit because you can use a bit more. We're always going to be at a disadvantage compared to the four-wheel drive because they can just get out of it. But you know, at the end of the day, it's the same for everybody, and the fact that I'm supposed to be a rain master, I don't really think it's true. It's probably rally experience and big horsepower experience. I think the people who haven't driven big horsepower is probably the guys suffering the most.
The conditions were made for the Rothmans Audi Quattro team. With four-wheel drive, the Audis had a massive advantage.
The conditions are pretty bad, but obviously suits our four-wheel drive. We're very happy to go and qualify in it. I think it'll be pretty tricky to drive a two-wheel drive around the circuit. I'm glad I'm in a four-wheel drive.
To no one's surprise, the Rothmans Audi pair of Terry Moss and Chris Aberdeen were soon among the pace setters in qualifying. Both Audis were to be at the centre of controversy later in a session that did not bring much joy for the BMW Envirocar pair of Sean van der Linde and Dion Joubert. While van der Linde was delayed in the pits with mechanical problems, Joubert decided on a safety-first approach.
The main thing is to stay on the track. It's pointless driving faster than you think you should, even though everybody else is pulling away from you. If you can't go faster, you can't go faster, and often you find yourself vindicated by the fact that everybody else has crashed. So I just try and really stay on, you know.
Hilton Cowie in the Domus Alfa Romeo has plenty of experience in wet weather driving. Brought up in Cape Town, Cowie spent a number of seasons racing single-seaters in Britain and was unfazed by the wet weather conditions. Opel racing star Grant McCleary has yet to race overseas and outlined some of the problems facing the drivers.
You know, the touring car is very, very stiff compared to a normal road car, and it's very skittish over the bumps, and especially with the puddles, it really wanders. The minute you hit a puddle, it really, the aquaplaning is very, very bad. That's the one aspect. The other one is the visibility. You can really see nothing. You know, the guys in front of you. The rain's not that bad to drive, and it's just you cannot see when the guys in front of you. You know, there's so much spray coming up.
Highly experienced Mike White in the Minolta Toyota Camry is a former British Formula 2 champion and was not overly concerned about the atrocious conditions.
Well, in England, in fact, you only get about 1 or 2 races a season wet. And in fact, actual fact, my very first race in the wet in England, I won. And I'd never even driven in the race before. So it's something that you either can do or you can't do.
Controversy erupted when qualifying was stopped when the Rothmans Audis of Chris Aberdeen and Terry Moss ran out of fuel on the circuit. Both cars were allowed to refuel, and the session was restarted with rival teams quick to lodge protests. The Audi squad was accused of breaking the rules, and after more debate, it was decided that times set before the session was stopped would determine grid positions. Pole position went to Mike White in the Minolta Toyota Camry ahead of Terry Moss in the Rothmans Audi. Championship leader Mike Briggs in the Opel Vectra and Chris Aberdeen in the second Audi shared the second row. Grant McCleary in the second Opel and Anthony Taylor in the Castrol Camry were on the third row of the grid. Rising BP Nissan star Chanel de Villiers and Cyril van der Merwe in the Sassel Ford Mondeo made up the top 8. Conditions throughout the weekend placed a huge emphasis on tyre choice, with the subjects coming in for much discussion between drivers and team managers. With 3 types of tyre available, wet conditions often place teams in something of a dilemma.
What we have here is just a normal type slick that is normally used for dry conditions. We have 3 different compounds that are available, and only when it is dry, then we use this type of tyre, and this is chosen by most of the teams. Under conditions like it has been at Zwartkops yesterday and today, a lot of the teams have chosen for the damp conditions to go to intermediate tyres. We use a normal standard slick, which is then taken and marked. As you can see here, the tyre is taken and cut with a re-grooving. As you can see, the grooves are very shallow, and all this is used for is to basically take the water under damp conditions. The tyre is then cut and is balanced after that to make sure that it's 100% true. However, if this is insufficient and it is raining very, very hard, we go to the full wet, which, as you can see, which is being fitted here. This is a tyre that is only used under very, very damp conditions, and under normal circumstances won't last more than about 10 to 12 laps because of its very, very soft compound.
All set for round 9 of the AA Fleetcare Touring Car Championship, with the rain holding off and all the cars on slicks. Away they go, and Terry Moss is slow off the line in the Rothmans Audi. Chris Aberdeen made up a place at the expense of his teammate as they stream towards the first corner. Trouble at the back of the field, and 2 cars are off the circuit. That's Leon Marie in the Bankfin Toyota and Hein Lartigan in the Build Motors Jetta. That's rotten luck for Marie, whose first super touring race did not last more than 100 metres. But back to the action up front, and Mike Briggs has forced his way past the Aberdeen Audi as they come out of the Continental Complex. The 2 cars swapped a bit of paint, and now Grant McCleary is powering the second Opel past the Rothmans Audi. Into the citizen sweep for the first time, and Mike White is out in front of the Minolta Camry. Championship leader Mike Briggs is right on his tail, with Grant McCleary 3rd in the second Opel. Anthony Taylor is 4th in the Castrol Camry, followed by Aberdeen, and then come de Villiers, Wyndham and Joubert. There is some hectic racing going on out there as the field streams through Sabat Corner. Racecam action from the Wyndham Sassel Ford Mondeo, and up ahead Chanel de Villiers is starting to look for a way around the Aberdeen Audi. Taylor is also putting pressure on McCleary as the cars bunch up in Continental. Aberdeen was tempted to attack Taylor on the inside, but the Castrol Camry is still 4th as they pour on the power and build up speed down the back straight, and we're riding again with the Wyndham Sassel Ford. This is the fastest part of the circuit as they head towards the drive-in section, and de Villiers is challenging Aberdeen again. You need to be very brave to try and drive around someone in the citizen sweep. De Villiers decides discretion is the better part of valour as they head up the hill to Bosel Corner. The order up front is still White in the Minolta Camry, Briggs and McCleary in the Opel Vectras, Anthony Taylor in the Castrol Camry, and Aberdeen, who is under pressure from de Villiers and Wyndham. Dion Joubert has also made up a place or two in the BMW Enviro car and is 8th. Mike White in the Minolta Camry has a lead of 2 or 3 car lengths over Mike Briggs, who is looking for his 7th win of the season. White looks comfortable at this stage of the race, but behind Briggs, a terrific battle is developing between Grant McCleary and Anthony Taylor in the Castrol Camry. Racecam action again from the Wyndham Sassel Ford, and he is still chasing after Janil de Villiers in the BP Nissan Sentra. There are still plenty of rain clouds about, but the rain is holding off as White leads the field through the citizen sweep. The circuit is very bumpy and these cars are right on the limit. More racecam action, this time from Dion Joubert in the BMW Enviro car. That's Wyndham up ahead as they approach Bosel Corner, and Joubert is hard at work in the Enviro car. White leads the pack through Sayback Corner, and Briggs looks to have closed the gap slightly on the race leader. It's not easy to overtake in these cars on a short and tight circuit like this one, and all you can do is keep the man up ahead under pressure and try and force him into a mistake. This is Class B leader Coersee Swanepoel in the BMW, and a good scrap is developing between Swanepoel and Duncan Foss in the Accord Nissan Sentra. 2 of the Class B frontrunners are already out after that start line incident involving Leon Marie and Hein Lattigan, and these 2 have opened up a handy gap over Nico van Rensburg, who is 3rd in another BMW. Someone's in the pits. That's Sabine Reck in the Motorplan BMW. Sabine is climbing out of the car. That looks to be the end of her race. Lap 9 out of 25, and Anthony Taylor has finally got past Grant McCleary. Taylor is up into 3rd in the Castrol Camry. Teammate Mike White still leads in the Minolta Toyota Camry, but the gap between White and Mike Briggs has closed. Both Janil de Villiers and Steve Wyndham have moved ahead of Chris Aberdeen, and this is another good scrap. A puff of smoke from the back of the Nissan as de Villiers locked up a wheel under braking. There's still no sign of a break in the clouds, but the rain is holding off. Mike White leads championship leader Mike Briggs past the start-finish line, and this is the closest Briggs has been to the Toyota at any stage of the race. Taylor and McCleary are 3rd and 4th, and Briggs is going for the lead. White went a little wide in the Continental Complex, and Briggs was up on the inside of the Toyota in a flash. A good piece of opportunistic driving by Mike Briggs, and White will be cursing himself for that error. A familiar sight in the AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship this season, with Mike Briggs out in front in the Opel Vectra. Briggs leads from White, Taylor and McCleary, but there's nothing between the first 4 cars. They're breathing down each other's necks, and it's Opel versus Toyota at the front of the field. The main straight with racecam action from the McCleary Opel, and Anthony Taylor looks to have pulled away slightly from the Opel as into the pits comes one of the BP Nissan Sentras. It is Nick de Waal in trouble, and that is a disappointment for the Nissan team. Back to the action, and there's been a change of leadership in Class B with Duncan Foss ahead of championship leader Coersee Swanepoel in the BMW. A fierce rivalry has developed between these 2, and Swanepoel is going for the inside line as they enter the Continental Complex. Swanepoel has lost it. The BMW has gone sliding onto the infield, contact with the safety barrier, and that is the end of the road for Coersee Swanepoel. And there are anxious faces in the Nissan pit. That is team manager Glyn Hall. He doesn't look happy as into the pits comes Janil de Villiers, and both BP Nissan Sentras are out of the race. 4 laps to go, and there is the race order with Briggs still leading Mike White, Anthony Taylor and Grant McCleary, with Steve Wyndham up into 5th position in the Sassel Ford Mondeo. Briggs has managed to open up a slight gap over White, but there is only a second or 2 between White, Taylor and McCleary, and this race is far from over. The slightest mistake from any of these drivers and the race order could change, but mistakes from Mike Briggs have been few and far between this season. 6 wins out of 8 races in the AA Fleetcare Championship gives you an idea of the domination Briggs has enjoyed this year. Grant McCleary has been snapping at the heels of Anthony Taylor for about 10 laps, with the Castrol Toyota bouncing through Bosel Corner. The circuit is very bumpy in sections, and these cars are skittish at the best of times. Race distance is running out for McCleary, and if he wants to get past Taylor, he's going to have to come up pretty quickly with a plan. The race order is unchanged, but an interesting variation in race lines from Grant McCleary. Briggs, White and Taylor all hugged the outside of the circuit as they entered the Continental Complex, but McCleary was in the centre of the circuit. It seems to work just as well, and McCleary is still right on Anthony Taylor's tail. Taylor looks to have the legs on McCleary down the back straight, and it's on the tighter sections of the circuit that the oval closes in on the Toyota. Briggs still leads Mike White in the Minolta Camry, with Taylor third in the Castrol Camry, and McCleary fourth in the second oval. This is Nico van Rensburg, now running second in Class B, with Steve Windham a long way behind the race leaders in fifth place in the Sassel Ford Mondeo. The battle for second, third and fourth continues, with Taylor and McCleary chasing Mike White. There are no team orders in the Toyota camp, and if Taylor sees an opportunity to get ahead of White, he'll take it. There's no doubt that McCleary wants to get past both of them, but that is a tall order with race distance running out. The scrap for second, third and fourth is desperately close, but race leader Mike Briggs looks set for another victory. Steve Windham is still in fifth place with the Sassel Ford pit crew waiting to signal Cyril van der Merwe in the second Mondeo, who is locked in battle with Dion Joubert and Chris Aberdeen. Back to the leaders on the penultimate lap, and Grant McCleary is attacking Anthony Taylor on the inside of Bosel. McCleary is muscling his way through, and there was heavy contact between the two cars. The action replay with door mirrors and body parts flying around as Taylor slides off the circuit. That was desperate Dan stuff from McCleary, but he is up into third place. Taylor has got going again and is still ahead of Steve Windham in fifth place. The final lap, and it's all over by the shouting for race and championship leader Mike Briggs. A fine drive is going to bring Briggs his 7th win in 9 starts. The Castrol Toyota Camry carries battle scars from the coming together with Grant McCleary, but Anthony Taylor is still in fourth, a long way ahead of Steve Windham, who'll be in the points for the 3rd time in a row. Michael Briggs and the Opel Vectra are into Bosel corner for the last time. Mike White is still chasing hard in second place, but he won't catch Briggs. McCleary is well clear of Anthony Taylor in 4th place as he laps Chris Aberdeen, who has steadily dropped back in the Rothmans Audi. The checkered flag is out for Mike Briggs, who wins round 9 of the AA Fleetcare Super Touring Championship. Mike White is second with Taylor 4th, Windham 5th, and also in the points is reigning champion Sean van der Linde after a tough drive from the back of the field in the BMW Envirocar. The traditional bubbly in pit lane, and in 3 seasons of super touring racing in South Africa, Opel have never been beaten at Zwartkops.
Zwartkops just as a way of providing some of the best racing in the country, and really a great result. Looking at the grid today, I didn't think I would be able to come up much higher than 3rd. Luckily drive for us, and I must say Mike White and the Toyota drove a superb race, but I think we still got the best car and the best package, so I'm exhausted now. Really, it's hard work out there.
While Opel celebrated, the BP Nissan team was hard at work in the race against time to repair the Duval and de Villiers cars for round 10.
Nick had a freak situation where a stone or something got into the water pump belt, and it broke the water pump belt, and the engine overheated and has blown the head gasket. We've taken the head off now, and we've replaced the gasket, and we should be in time for the 2nd race. So, you know, we've got high hopes there. And Janelle was lying very close to the leading bunch, but his dog ring in the gearbox, which selects the 1st and 2nd gear, failed, so he was forced to retire.